Hey guys, welcome to today's video. So in today's video, we are going to create a fun little cartoon character that is a robot. So this character is going to be super low poly. You can see the faces right here. It's under 5,000. If I select the character, you can see what the wireframe looks like. Again, super optimized, perfect as a game character for any game engine, even a mobile game engine. And of course, once you model this, you can include even more resolution and details. And in this example so far, we're only going to do modeling. I'm not going to do UVs or textures because we are not going to have enough time, and maybe that will be part 2. So in this example, this is just the materials applied. There's no textures or UVs for this character. Essentially, we're just going to be modeling the base mesh. All right, so let's jump right in. All right, so let's get started. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to poly modeling. I'm going to grab my cylinder, and I do have interactive creation turned on, so I'm going to start dragging my cylinder. And next I'm going to go to my attribute editor, and I want to make sure that this is a little bit lower poly, right? So maybe 14 is a little bit better. I'm going to turn off my subdivision caps to off, and let's go ahead and add some height, right? So let's do something like 6. I think makes sense, or I guess we could do 5, right? So I think 5 is good. Very nice. I'm going to right click, go to object mode, select my shape. I do want to turn on my wireframe so I can see the topology. When I click off of it, you can see what that looks like. And I do need to make sure that this is actually zeroed out. And I'm going to press 0, press enter. That's going to be centered, right? Whenever you use interactive creation and you drag out your shapes on the grid, they are not going to be centered, right? So that's an important point. Let's go ahead and move this up. So this is going to be our kind of the chest area or the plate. So where do we start? I think the first thing we could do right away, just to kind of give us a little visual cue, is let's just extrude this piece in just like that. And I'm going to press Ctrl E, and I'm going to pull this in, right? So that's going to be the neck area, and this is going to be sort of the belly. Very cool. Next, let's right click, go to face. Let's keep an eye on this gizmo, so we know that Z is the front and X is going to be the sides, right? So for that reason, I want to come on the side, and I want to select all of these faces here, and let's start kind of building a shoulder or arm socket on each side, right? So we could make sure that our symmetry is on. And how do we circularize this to make this round, right? So there's a button right here in our poly modeling tab, and if we click on it, we can make sure that we are happy with the topology. Right now it does look kind of messed up and uneven and ugly. And for that reason, I'm going to turn off evenly distribute. And I think that looks a little bit nicer and definitely more symmetrical, right? So that's a little bit better. Very cool. So next, let's go ahead and pull this out. So I'm going to press W, and I'm going to move this out and just kind of eyeball it about this much. So this is going to be kind of the shoulders for the character, right? All right, so once we move them out, let's go ahead and rotate them. So I'm going to press E, and let's rotate them about 45 degrees or so. So we have kind of a slant coming down. I'm going to press Ctrl E one more time. And what I would like to do is I would like to push out a little bit of a thickness for, for the arm socket, right? And let's do Control E one more time, and let's scale this piece in a little bit. So maybe something like that. That's fine. Let's do Control E and push this in. All right, so this is looking good, but let's maybe add a little bit more geometry right here. For that, I'm going to jump into my side view. I can press F, And let's grab our knife tool and let's just make a cut maybe here, and be careful not to go into the bottom piece. So you want to stay in this kind of a shoulder area, right? So I'm going to make sure that I don't do this. I'm going to stay here, and I'm going to give myself more geometry by making another cut. I think that's great. And let's jump back into the perspective view and take a look. I think that's great. Let's see, what else can we do? So the next thing we should do is let's start kind of shaping this even more, right? And one of the first things you might say is, hey, we need shoulders, right? So that's where this would come in handy. Let's press W. And let's just start creating maybe a little bit of a shoulder for our character, right? So we have something like that. We can even move it up so he has kind of a strong shoulders. Very cool. Let's go ahead and delete this piece here for now. And I'm going to do the same thing with this as well, right? And I'm also going to delete all of these faces inside the arm too. Very cool. If we wanted to add a little bit of a bevel, we can do that right away by just selecting maybe this edge here. Let's select this edge, and let's do a little bevel and see what that looks like. I'm going to set mine to maybe 0.3. I think that's nice. So it's a little bit softer, right? So it's not so sharp. We can do the same thing here as well. I can double click on this, and I'm still in the symmetry mode, so I can do bevel, and I know it's going to be doing it on both sides. And I'm going to do 0.3 here as well. All right. Very nice. If we wanted to adjust some of this because it was created with local symmetry, we could the edges on the actual bevel piece as well. So let's go ahead and press R one more time, and let's just scale these in. So to match the thickness, right? I think that's a little bit better. Very cool. Make sure it's on both sides. Very nice. In the front of the character, let's create kind of a round piece here, almost like an Iron Man kind of thing, right? So I have something like this. Now I do want it to be flat, so that's important. So I'm going to press R, and I'm just going to flatten out this whole area for now. So I have something like that. I can press W and move this out, right? So it feels a little more like it makes sense. And another thing I can do, if I wanted to, I could also grab some of these edges here and just kind of soften this up a little bit, move this in a little more. I think that makes sense. Let's go ahead and select all of these, and let's use this button one more time to circularize, and again turn off evenly distribute, so we have something like that. I can press R, and let's maybe scale this in a little. Very cool. Let's go into object mode, and if we needed to clean this up, we can, right? We can just simply move some of these points around manually. If you feel like maybe some of them could be adjusted a little bit, feel free to do that. And once you are happy, one of the things we can do is maybe let's add a bevel to this as well. So I'm going to do a bevel and do something like this. I think that's great. I would like to take all of these faces here, and I would like to push them in. So I'm going to do Control E and just literally just push this in, right? And we can even scale this a little bit so we have kind of a nice visual kind of going in, right? I think that looks really cool. We can keep working on this, so we can do Control E one more time and just scale this even more. If it starts to get kind of weird, let's undo that. Let's jump out of the symmetry. We can reset it and then use that. So that is exactly what I was looking for, something along these lines. Let's do that. Let's do Control E, and let's push this out, right? So I'm just kind of starting to build some kind of a device inside the robot's chest. So maybe do something like that, and let's just keep doing it. I'm going to do Control E one more time. I can switch to scale, which is going to be global and not local. Again, keep this thickness around about the same. Do Control E, and I'm going to push this in. Switch to this scale and do something like that. And you can see how very quickly I'm just creating kind of an interesting detail. We can even do more in Substance Painter, right? So that this should be good for kind of a base mesh design so far, right? You can see how that is looking very interesting. And we can add some emission here. We can add some more detail in Substance Painter, but this is looking really nice. If we wanted to, we can even take advantage of this rim here, and let's do Control E and just extrude this a little more as well. So we have kind of a little bit of a lip there. I think that looks great. Now, so far, it does look like everything has been extruded and extracted. So sometimes it's a good idea to bring in other shapes that are not part of this kind of a base mesh. So I'm going to select these, press R. I'm going to move them up a little more. So it's a little more round. And what I could do is I can grab these here. Let's grab all of these and just press delete. And instead, let's just insert something in there. So I'm gonna grab a box, drag a box out. Let's do mesh smooth. And let's go ahead and switch to face. And let's just delete all of these faces here and here. All right. I'm gonna grab this. I'm gonna make sure that it's centered. All right, and I'm gonna move this up and in. So I'm gonna literally just put it inside, almost like a light. And I think the cool thing is you can tell by geometry that it's kind of a little bit, you know, it's separate. All right, so let's do something like that. I think that looks pretty cool. If we wanted to, we can add some more detail here as well. Let's grab maybe all of these. Let's do a bevel. And let's just turn this down to like 0.3. Let's go ahead and grab maybe all of these here. Clicking on one, holding down the shift, double click. Let's do extrude, and let's maybe just pull these in. So we have almost like an energy looking device inside the chest plate. All right, so if you wanted to do a quick preview of what you have so far, you can select all of this, right? So both meshes. And then if you press 3, you can do a smooth preview and make sure everything looks nice and clean. And one thing to mention for anyone who's new to modeling, right? 3 is great for Maya preview, right? It's going to give you a smooth preview. And if you're creating a short film or animation inside Maya, this is what the render would look like. But if you export this out to a game engine like Unity or Unreal, right? This, if you press 1, this is actually the topology and the mesh that you're exporting. So you're not going to get these smooth, right, shapes when you export this out unless you either subdivide it or add a bunch more geometry. But for this exercise so far, we're keeping it super low poly. As you can see, we're only 511 faces and only about 1,000 tries. So super low poly, right? This is pretty much perfect for like a game, mobile game asset or something like that. But at any time you can always up-res it if you're doing a nice job creating kind of a clean base mesh for your game character. All right, so next let's go ahead and jump into making the belly. And the way I'm visualizing this is almost like creating a bunch of ribs. So to do that, I'm gonna grab a box, and let's do a box, and let's go ahead and scale this in. So this is gonna be, think of this as like one of the ribs, right? We can decide what thickness we like. Maybe something like that. Let's do, let's scale it this way a little bit. And you can see that I'm not really paying attention to precise measurements. I'm just kind of having fun and eyeballing it as far as the scale and sizing goes. Just do the same, and sometimes it's just fun to have, it's cool to just have fun. All right, so I am gonna zero this out because I do want it centered. So something like that, and let's think about this. So the first thing I would like to do is I'm gonna bevel this, and let's go ahead and bevel this. I think something like that should work. If we wanted to change, maybe if we want to add any kind of deformation to this, we definitely need more more edges, right? Or more segments. So let's come back here and let's see if we can add some width. So maybe we'll do something like that. And we don't really need the height, right? I think just the width is good. So I think I'm happy with this, and this will allow us to bend it if we wanted to bend it, right? Very cool. So let's leave it at this, and let's just see how this works. So I'm going to select this one, and I'm going to press Control D and move up, and now I have 2 of them, right? And I think I would like to have 5 of them, and I would like them to be the same distance, right? So how do I move this with the same distance? Well, what I could do is I'm going to press delete. All right, so now what we could do, we can select this guy here, and then we can press Shift D and move this up. And now if I wanted to have 5 of them, right, I could let it go and do Shift D, let's see, 3 more times. So Shift D, 1, 2, 3, right? So that's going to give me 5 of these guys. And now what I can do is I can select all of them, and I know they're the same distance, which is really cool. Let's go ahead and put them into position, and now let's just have a little fun kind of scaling them or shaping them, right? Deforming them. So how do we deform them in an interesting way so it doesn't look, something so boring? To do this, what we could do is we can, again, be in modeling. Let's go to deform. And let's use something like lettuce. I'm gonna go to options. And currently I have 3 by 3 by 3. If you wanted to, we could switch it to maybe 5 by 5 by 5 and do apply. And now we have something like this, which is cool. Now if I right click on this, I can go to points, and I can grab maybe some of these points. Let's grab these here, these bottom 2. And what I could do is I can press R, and let's just scale this in. So you can see what it's doing. It's kind of shaping this into something a little more interesting. We could even press B to create a soft select if we wanted to. And the soft select, we can adjust it. I'm gonna put mine to something like, I don't know, 7.7, that's fine. And let's just see how that works. So I'm going to kind of squeeze this in. So that's going to be a nice form for the belly. And of course, I could do the same thing this way too. I think that looks pretty cool. Another thing we can do is if we wanted to add a little movement, here as well. Let's grab all of these middle points, press W, and let's just move this up. Right, so we have something, so it's not perfectly straight either. I think that is cool. If you like this and you want to commit to it, we can also, you know what else we can do? We can select the middle point. So I'm just going to drag it to select all of these. I can press W, and if I wanted to, I can create a little bit of a curve. So maybe let's pump up the soft select a little more. Let's see if we can create a little bit of a, almost like a back curve, right? So you have something like that. I think that's cool. And I'm kind of liking it. It's creating a little bit of a organic look to it. Very cool. Let's go ahead and select all of these and let's do a clear history. Okay, so now we have something like this. Now, one of the first things I'm realizing personally is that I'm not really happy with the bottom being so perfectly round. I would love to pull some of these faces in, so I'm going to grab this guy here, and if you hold down the B key, you can change the soft select power and see how much of it is being affected. So I'm going to go all the way almost to the shoulders, press W, and just move this whole piece up. So I'm going to shape this a little better, right? So I have something like that. And I don't really want to go past this piece here. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to grab this and just move this forward. And I think that makes a little more sense as far as the bottom goes, right? And I'm okay with this piece being out. We can dial this down just a little bit, maybe pull this in as well. So now I have something like this. And that's looking pretty cool. All right. If we wanted to, if you turn off your wireframe, you can see that some of the edges are not consistent with others, right? Some of them are sharp and some of them are soft. And you can see that throughout the entire model so far. We can always select both or everything, right? And we can go to mesh display and let's go to soft and hard edges and click on options and take a look. So by default, it's set to 30 degrees, or the angle is at 30. If you wanted to, you could switch it to maybe like, I don't know, 60 and do apply. And now what you could see, if you go to object mode, you can see that now it looks a little more consistent. You have kind of a sharp edges at 90 degrees, and then you have soft edges covering the rest of the mesh, right? And maybe that makes more sense. If you're not happy with it, you can select just these here and just do a soft edge there and see if that looks better, right? It's totally a preference. Now, it's important to understand that when you do soft or hard edges in Maya, that does go to the game engine, and that's going to look exactly the same as it does in Maya. So that's really important, right? You want to pay attention to those. All right, again, if you want to do a quick preview, select everything, press 3. You can see what that looks like. I'm happy with all of this so far. All right, so one of the things that you might notice is that obviously these ribs are kind of just floating in the air. Let's go ahead and just add something like a spine, right? So I'm going to add a box, and I'm going to make sure that my box is indeed in the center. So I'm going to put the box in the center, and let's go ahead and put it into position. I'm going to just maybe scale it in a little, or before I do that, let me go to my attribute editor and let me give me a little bit of a height. So let's give us maybe 8 subdivisions for the height. We can just expand this out. And again, think of this as kind of the spine, right? Very nice. I'm going to put this into position. If you wanted to see what you're doing, you can always come to, let's see, the side view. We can turn on X-ray, right? We can see what is going on here. Press R, maybe scale it, put it in position. Now, if we want to bend this, what would be the easiest way to kind of follow this curve? I think the easiest thing to do is just grab, let's just grab these vertex points right here, and then press B on our keyboard. And again, holding down the B, you can adjust the fall off. So just go all the way, maybe just include, the middle points. And you can just simply drag this to mimic. And you can even press E, right? Because we're not going to see the bottom of this. So we can, if we wanted to, we can create almost like a custom spine for this guy. I can press B if I wanted to tweak any of these, but I'm pretty happy with this. I think that's pretty great. Now if we jump back into the perspective view, we can see what that looks like. All right, very cool. Let me make sure that I go back into the one mode so I can see what's going on. Turn my wireframe on, and there you go. So far we are at 1790, which is super low, and we only have the chest and the belly done. So now we need to do the kind of the legs and the hips, right? Definitely arms and the head, and maybe even give him some kind of a weapon. But all right, so let's keep going. All right, so to create the hips, what I'd like to do is I'm gonna grab this torus, and let's just do something like that. Let's go to attribute editor, and let's turn down our resolution to be maybe 12 by 7. I think that makes sense. Let's go ahead and angle our hips. So essentially the leg connector is going to go inside here, and that's going to be going into the hips, right? So this is going to be his left side. Let's jump into maybe the side view, press W, and if we wanted to, we could switch it to world view and just kind of put it in position where it sort of makes sense, right? So maybe somewhere around here is going to be his left hip, and if I wanted to, I can also move it into position. So I think I kind of like how it goes over this part here. So I think that works, right? Let's do that. And the next thing we could do, we could press R and just make it maybe a little bit larger. Again, I'm just kind of eyeballing it, but I think that makes sense. I would like to have one of these on the other side, so I'm just going to do a mirror. Now I have two of them. That's great. Let's make sure that they are connected. So I'm going to select both of them. I'm going to combine the mesh, and I can even clear the history. All right. So you can see I'm starting to build kind of the pelvis area, right? Next, I would like to maybe let's select all of this and press delete. And you know what? I'm actually going to delete these as well, right? And now I can start connecting them. So let's go ahead and connect these together by just bridging them. So now that's going to be kind of the his growing area and his hips. And I definitely need to make sure I have some more geo in here to create maybe like a bend, right? So to do that, let's go to mesh display. Let's go to mesh tools, insert edge loops. Let's do multiple. Let's see what 6 gives us. I think that's a little bit too much. Let's do 4, right? And I think 4 works. Now I would like to move all of these down, right? Create more of a bend here. So I'm going to press B on my keyboard. And if you wanted to know what my currently soft select is set to 7.8, I'm going to do maybe 6. And let's just kind of bend this down a little bit. And I'm not happy with it, so I'm actually going to turn this up to like 10. Let's see. Yeah, something like that is what I was looking for. I think that's pretty cool. That looks like a pretty interesting hip. If we wanted to, we could pull out some details here for this guy, right? So let's maybe take. I'm going to turn off my soft select, and let's just create some detail here so it looks a little more interesting. All right, so let's do like an extrusion. We'll pull this out. All right, I think that's cool. If we wanted to scale it a little bit, we could do that. We can scale this in maybe, so it's a little kind of a sharp look. I think that works. definitely let's select this shape and let's click on soften hard edge, and as you remember, it's currently set to I guess it's set to 30, right? Let's set this to, I'm gonna set this to 70 and say apply. And if you're not, you can play around and see what makes sense, but I think 50 actually looks good because I do want to maintain sharpness here, and I like all of this to be smooth, so I'm gonna go with 50. All right, I think that's pretty good. All right, so that takes care of our hips. Next, we can start adding the leg pieces, right? And for that, maybe definitely save your character to Control S real quick, and make sure that you don't have this little asterisk next to your file name. That means this has not been saved. So that's kind of important, right? So if you press Control S, you should see that go away, and this way you know this is saved, right? And every time you make a change, that little thing is going to come back to show you, hey, do you want to save? Right now this is the floor, right? And we're kind of building it below the floor. I'm going to take all of these and just move them up and start kind of deciding what height I want for this character. But one of the first things that I need for both the hips and arms is I do need a sphere. So I'm going to give myself a box. Let's do mesh smooth. And let's decide if we want it to be 1 subdivision or 2. I think 2 is better, right? Because we can afford a little poly count. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and jump into the side view. And right now I have my X-ray turned on, so you can do that as well. But I'm going to position this into place, press E, and kind of rotate it to match the flow, right, of the... So I'm looking at this line right here in the middle, and I want to make sure that it kind of makes sense when it goes inside the hips. I'm going to press Control D, and then do the same thing here as well. Press E to rotate it, and I'm just going to make sure that that matches also. Now I can't really quite tell the scale of this yet from this angle, so I do need to go back into my perspective view. And let's talk about the scale. So the scale, I definitely want this to be a little bit probably smaller. Press W, and if you switch to object mode, that's going to match the axes of the object, right? So this is going to be my arm, the beginning of my arm. So I want it to be kind of inside like that, and then we can decide what makes sense as far as the scale goes, but something along these lines is good. All right, let's do the same thing here. I'm going to scale it in, press W, and just move it into position. And you can see that I have all this extra geo that's not going to be seen because it's going to be hidden, right? So let's make this smaller, put it into position so it's somewhat aligned, right? And I definitely want to make sure that I don't have all this, I don't need all this extra geo on both sides, right? So I'm going to make sure my symmetry is on, and I'm just going to simply press delete because no one's going to see all of that extra topology, right? You can see that here, so that makes sense. Let's go ahead and select both of these, and let's do a mirror to the other side. Okay, very nice. Next, let's create his feet. I think that would be fun to do. Let's create a box, and let's maybe this could be his, his toes, right? So I'm going to do something like that. And what I would like to do is I'm going to press Control D, and let's move it aside. And if we do Shift D, as you remember, it's gonna repeat the distance, right? So now we have 3 of them. And let's think of these as kind of 3 toes for our character, right? So I'm gonna press R, maybe make it a little bit longer. And now let's start sort of shaping this up, right? So I'm gonna combine this into one, and I can always clear my history. And what I would like to do next is let's start building this into a more of a foot, right? So maybe the front of the foot could be a little sharper, right? So maybe we could do something like that. We could do that. We can grab some of these faces here, press R, and maybe push them in for the back. Now it's not working, so I need to make sure I select the middle one as well. So that could be an interesting shape. If we wanted to, let's subdivide this so we can have more geo, right? So I'm gonna jump into my side view, and if we wanted to, we could put this into a better position, right? So that's gonna be sort of the floor, something like this. Let's grab the knife tool and let's just start slicing some of this geometry up, kind of breaking this up and giving us more something to play with, right? Very cool. Let's jump back into perspective view and take a look. Now we have something like this. They almost look like chicken feet. I know, but that's okay. Let's just keep building it. Let's go ahead and pull this one up, right? And let's see, what else can we do? Maybe let's grab these edges here and pull those up. And I'm attempting to build almost like a, you know, like a foot, right? This would be the heel, these would be the ankles. And if you wanted to, we could start maybe shaping this up into something a little more interesting. That's pretty cool. We could also maybe, let's add a bevel to here real quick. Now when we add a bevel, you can see that we kind of lose the quad here, right? So if you wanted to manually adjust that, you could always grab the knife tool and just manually kind of fix the topology by adding cuts. That's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it, if you want to do it automatically, you could just simply select the shape, go to mesh, go to cleanup, go to options. And if you have cleanup selected and faces with more 4 sides checked, you can just do apply and that will automatically kind of put those lines in. And you can see it's doing it inside as well, right? So maybe that's a better, more efficient way of doing it. Very cool. So let's see, what else can we do? Let's think about how this is going to be connecting to the top, right, of kind of our knee. I think it would be awesome if we created, let's create, I would love for this shape to be more round instead of looking, you know, so square, right? So how can we do that? Well, we can, let's go ahead and use this again. So I'm going to select this face, say circularize. Let's go ahead and add more divisions. So I'm going to add 1. And again, let's turn off evenly distribute. I'm going to go to scale and let's just scale this in. Now, if you wanted to clean that up real quick, again, select it, go to mesh and do a cleanup. And you can see that's going to attempt to clean it up. I'm not going to yet do that. That's okay. Let's select this, let's go do Control E. And let's just do something like that. Do another Control E and let's just pull this in. Do something like that. Do Control E and then just start pulling this out. So that's going to be kind of the connector for the leg. I think that works. If we wanted to, we can even make this a little bit stronger, right? And we can figure out how that actually connects to the knee, right? Once we have the knee in place. Maybe it would be cool to also grab some of these here. And let's pull them out a little bit. So that could be an interesting detail as well. Totally your preference, right? Whatever you want. But if you want to shape this a little more, we can always select maybe all of these here, and let's select this as well, and let's do a bevel. I'm gonna do it at I'm gonna go with 0.7. I think that's pretty cool. And I think I'm gonna actually undo this, and I want to grab this one, this inner one as well, right? So I want to have all of these inside ones and the outside ones. And you know what? I'm also gonna get this back once as well. And let's do a bevel 0.7. I think is cool. Let's go to object mode, take a look. So I'm pretty happy with this foot. I can add more fun detail in Substance Painter, but I think this totally works. And we do need to fix some of the topology here, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and click on this. Let's do Control E. Let's pull this in, and we can just press delete for now. And that could be one of our connectors. We can also select this, go to mesh, let's do a cleanup and make sure we don't have any polys that are not quads or tris, right? So we could do that. I know it's messing up some of the beautiful topology, so you could do it manually if you want to, but I'm totally okay with this because this is you know, no one's going to see these lines, right, once we do the textures, and it's still super low poly. And you know, keep in mind, one of the biggest reasons of why usually you don't want to do tris, you want to stick with quads, is because you are doing it for animation, right? So the deformation in your joints are really important. This is not going to be an issue here. And then another reason is if you press 3 and you subdivide it, a lot of times tris create really ugly results. But in this case, again, this is going to be a game model, so it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to go with this. And the only thing that I'm seeing is that my ankle is currently kind of pointing away, and I want it to almost be facing the other way, right? So I kind of have a knee kind of indenting inside. So let me fix that real quick. I'm gonna go into the side view, grab all of these faces, and I'm gonna select all of these. I'm gonna press B on my keyboard, grab my rotation, and I want to make sure that this is rotated in instead of out, so something like that. Press W, can put it into a better position. All right, and that is what I need to create my knee. That's pretty perfect. Let's make sure that this is making sense as far as having two of them, right? So they do need to be kind of away from the center line. So that's really important too, right? Because you can have 2 feet. So I don't want to rotate it yet, because if we're gonna set it up with joints, you want to make sure that when you're rigging, all of your limbs are perfectly straight. So for that reason, I'm gonna leave it facing front for now. But I could select it and mirror it to the other side, so I have 2 of them, right? All right, so that's looking pretty cool. Now we just need some knees, kind of a some kind of a connection for the leg. And then obviously we still have to build the hands and the head. So let's keep going. All right, so I think we are ready to model the head for our character. And the last thing, I just want to do one more touch up, and this will also allow me to show you a quick little trick. For example, let's say I want to modify or change something about these feet, right? How do I do that if both of these objects are not connected? Can I do it at the same time? And there is a trick in Maya that allows you to do that. So if you hold down the Shift key and select both shapes, you can come up here and click on this little button called Select by Component Type. When I click on that, you can see that both of these shapes, even though they are not connected, turn into the Edit mode, which will allow me to right-click, go to Edge mode, for example, and let's say I want to select these edges here in front. I'm going to press W on my keyboard and just simply move this up to make maybe the toes feel a little bit stronger, right? So I'll do something like that. And now I can go back into the object mode, and you can see that I was able to edit both of them at the same time, and automatically it switched off the component mode, right? So a really cool little trick that is super useful, and once in a while there is going to be situations where you want to edit two different shapes that are not connected, right? So keep that in mind. I think that's a little bit better. Maybe that looks a little more like, almost like a cartoon foot versus kind of like maybe, less of a bird look. But either way, I think this totally works, and I'm really enjoying the proportions of, extra large, oversized kind of thing. But at the same time, let's try to make them feel a little more, dangerous and not friendly, right? So let's just keep going and see if we can pull that off. So to do the head, I would like to, let's take advantage, let's go ahead and select everything so far that we have, and I'm going to press clear my history, and let's take a look here and see what's going on in our outliner. So we have all these extra groups, right? To keep our stuff organized, what we could do, I could just select all of this mess and just do Control G just to put it in a group, and again do a history. And when I put it in the group and open this up, you can see what it did is it collected all the meshes and it put it inside a essentially a folder, right, like a group folder, and it took them out of all of the other groups. So that's a cool way to quickly clean up your outliner, which means I can select the old groups and just simply press delete. And the nice thing about that is that now I can select this group, for example, and just press H on my keyboard to hide it if I want to maybe focus on something specific, like, let's start building the head, and then we'll merge it or combine it with, and see how it fits with the body, right? But this will allow us to kind of focus on that by itself. So with the head, I'm going to grab a box, and let's just start kind of blocking out something that maybe would work for us. I'm going to go ahead and go into, I'm going to zero this out, and initially I'm not going to worry about the size or the scaling. I just want to focus on modeling the head and making something interesting that could work, right? So for the head, let's go ahead and take maybe the front, and I'm going to press R on my keyboard and just going to pull this in. So the front of the character is going to be the shape in the front is going to be a little thinner than the back. The back is going to be a little bit wider, right? Another thing I can do is, let's go ahead and select the whole thing, and let's go ahead and bevel it. And maybe let's add a few segments. So we have to decide, how much of this makes sense as far as keeping it low poly, and see what you like. But I think I'm going to go with something along these lines. I think 3 segments make sense. All right. And for, let's see, so I do want to have a center line for the character. So let me insert a few edges. Let's go to Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop, and click on Options. And let's leave it on multiple. I'm going to leave it on 3. And let's just simply insert 3 loops in here, just so we have some geometry to play around with. Maybe we want to make this head a little more round. And I think I'm going to leave the sides flat, so I don't really need more topology here. But for this, let's go ahead and see if we can make something. Maybe let's do kind of like a slit in front for his face. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of these edges here, and let's go ahead and do a bevel. And if we add more segments, we can see what that does. I don't really want that, right? So I'm just going to leave this just like this. And what I would like to do is I would like to take, and we can adjust figure out how wide we want this opening to be. I'm going to go with something like 0.3. I think that's fine. Let's go ahead and grab these faces here, all of these. And again, pay attention, always pay attention as you're modeling that this is no longer a quad, right? So we could take care of it in a minute, but that's important. And if you ever wanted to have Maya find polygons that are not quads for you without them being edited, you just simply want to find them. You could always go to Mesh, Clean Up Mesh, go to Options, and then instead of Clean Up, just say Select. And then when you say apply, it's going to show you anything that is in question, right? So in this case, I have a bunch of things selected. So let's say I don't want any of this. I just simply want to know things that are more than 4 sides. And you can see, because I don't have cleanup selected, it's just simply selecting them, but it doesn't do anything with them, right? So another really cool trick to quickly find things that requires attention or cleanup. So keep that in mind as well. Let's go ahead and close it, and let's just continue, right? So I'm going to go back into here. I'm going to select all of these faces here, and let's think about this. So I want to push this in. So I'm going to go to extrude, and let's just do something like that. I think that would be really interesting, right? That's essentially going to be his face, and definitely need some emission lights coming out from there. If we wanted to make it a little bit more interesting, maybe we can double click on this edge here. Let's press W and see if we can move this up and see how that feels. Could move it up just a little bit, and maybe let's do another bevel. Do something like that. And now I was thinking of maybe taking this gap here and pressing R, and maybe let's just see if we can scale this in to make it a little more interesting. So something like that I think is really cool. All right, so I think that works. Let's add a round ear, on his side of his head. And another thing that we could do is we can also pull out the shape, right? So right now it's sort of super square, right? But let's say we want to make it more like a face. To do that, what I could do is I can go on the side. Let's grab these points here. Let's press W. Let's just move this down a little bit, and then maybe move these up. And when that happens, that means my camera base selection is on. I want to make sure that's off, because when I select all the points, I want to make sure it's being selected in the back and the front, right? So always keep that in mind. So let's do something like that. And if we wanted to, we can even maybe pull this in a little. Just create some kind of an interesting shape for the head instead of just a simple box, right? Maybe I can move this up a little. You can see how that feels. All right, very nice. Let's add some ears, right? So for the ears, I'm just gonna simply grab let's grab a cylinder, and let's just make a cylinder right on the ground and figure out what we want the thickness of our ears to be. So maybe something like that. Let's go to Attribute Editor and decide if we need 20. I think 15 will probably be better. I usually like to stick to even numbers when I do subdivisions, and the reason for that is because if you do even numbers and you ever wanted to select in-betweens like this, even number will always give you perfect spacing. keep that in mind. Whenever you choose odd number, right, then at the end you're gonna have something like that, right? Because they're not gonna be spaced properly. So that's the reason I usually like to pick even number. Just a little tip. I'm gonna go into subdivision caps and turn that off so I can play around with some additional modeling. Let's go ahead and hold down the J key and rotate this 90 degrees. And let's go ahead and put this into position where we want the ears to be. So maybe somewhere around here makes sense. We can decide what size we like. So maybe this a little bit too large. I want to make sure it kind of fits into that space right there, right? So that that works. And we can of course adjust the rotation as well, right? Right now it doesn't feel like it's rotated properly, so I'm going to press F on my keyboard. I'm going to press E, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rotate this a little bit better from the top here. So something like that I think makes a little more sense. Very nice. Let's go ahead and isolate this. And let's definitely delete this back because no one's going to see this. Once again, go back to this mode and let's start maybe adding some detail here, right? So one of the things we can do right away is let's go ahead and... Now this is another interesting trick. Let's say you want to select this edge, but how do you do that if this face is not yet subdivided, right? If you double click, you can see it's not letting you because you can only select one edge at a time. So is there a trick to select all of these together, right? And there is, right? So you could just select this face and then you could just go to select and then do convert selection and just switch it to edges, and that will automatically grab all of the edges. So a bunch of little modeling tricks that are really useful, right? Let's go ahead and bevel this, and let's just bevel it something like, I'm gonna go with 0.3. I keep using 0.3, but I think that makes sense and it looks nice. Let's also grab this edge here and let's do another bevel. And this one I'm gonna keep much closer, so I'm gonna keep it at 0.1. And I'm gonna select all of these faces here, press Ctrl E, and I'm just gonna use this blue arrow to kind of push them in. I think that looks nice. Let's go ahead and keep going for the ear. Let's grab this centerpiece. Let's do Ctrl E. Click on this outside box, pull these in, and let's do Ctrl E again and maybe push this in. Click on the outside box and pull this in. All right. And let's take a look and see if we like that. I think that's really nice. If we wanted to add some more interesting detail, maybe he has like a little gadget that allows him to, I don't know, receives phone calls. Let's grab all of these faces here and let's do a bevel, or not a bevel, I'm sorry, extrude, and let's just pull this out. And I know it doesn't make much sense, but it's a tech, you know, it's a tech thing, and I think it adds a little interesting detail, almost like there's some kind of a gadget that he's using, right? We can always play around. I always like to grab random things and just pull them around and see what happens. And a lot of times it doesn't make sense and I break stuff, but sometimes I do like it. So in this case, I think something like that is super interesting, right? And a lot of times when you pull things around, it's very difficult to kind of plan for it. Sometimes you just have kind of happy accidents, and I'm totally liking this shape. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave it, right? Let's talk about this. So now we have something like this. And all right, so how do we clean this up? I think the best thing to do would be to simply use our knife tool. And let's just split this up into quads, right? So I'm gonna do one here. And if you see things kind of snapping and moving, I'm gonna undo and you can see this little point snap. That's because the edge flow is on, right? If I turn that off and I start cutting up the geometry, you can see that all the points will stay intact. So this is a quad, right? Because you got 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's good. Let's go ahead and clean this up and do the same thing. Just kind of cut this up into quads real quick. And that's actually wrong. I'm going to go here. And let's do maybe one from here to here and from here to here. So very quickly we can make it look nice, right? So it's a little clean and professional. All right, so I think I'm happy with this ear. The only thing that I would like to do is I would like to bring it to the other side. So I'm going to select it. I'm going to click on mirror. Make sure it's on the other side, and it is. All right, that looks pretty cool. Let's see, could we do anything else? Maybe we can add some detail to the top of this, right? Let's go ahead and maybe add, let's go ahead and make this live, the surface live. I'm gonna grab another cylinder and let's just do something maybe on the top of his head as well. Maybe like a larger, maybe this is where his brain sits. So we'll do something like that. If I wanted to make sure that this is centered, I can grab my move tool. I can hold down the X key and just move it over. So that kind of snaps on the grid and we know this is centered. You can see these are perfectly aligned on the back and the front, right? So that's cool. Let's go ahead and press R and let's just scale this in a little bit. I'm going to press W, and again, this is going to be kind of like a panel on top of his head that maybe opens up. We can press R and maybe scale it in so it doesn't go into this round portion of the character. I think that's, I'm going to stay in between these lines here. We can press W and we can decide if we want to maybe move it to the middle. I think that works. All right. Let's see. So another thing we can do is obviously, if we want to add more detail, let's go ahead and go into our attribute editor and let's turn off once again the caps, right? And again, let's delete the bottom by isolating it. And I'm just gonna delete this face here. Very nice. Let's add some more interesting detail here by just simply creating something that we like. Maybe I'm going to do Control E and I'm going to pull this up. Do Control E again. Maybe just create something that looks semi-interesting, right? So I'm going to do something like that. I think that's cool. Let's go ahead and see if we like this. I think we do. I'm going to go ahead and poke this. All right. Very nice. And let's see if we want to add something in the back, right? So for the back, what I would like to do, I'm going to jump out of live surface and let's just decide, and maybe there's a panel on the back of the character as well, right? So let's grab all of these faces here and let's see if we can do something interesting here. I'm going to do extrude, Control E, and let's just pull these in. Something like that, right? I think that's nice. And if we wanted to, maybe, you know, when they're building these guys, a lot of times they have to grab them by their head. Let's create like a little handle here. So I'm going to select both of these faces, press Control E, and just pull this out. All right. And now what I could do, let's just simply connect these faces here. Yeah, so let's do that. So I'm going to press delete. I'm going to go to, I'm going to double click this, hold down the shift key, double click this, and let's do a bridge. And something like that is exactly what I was looking for, just some kind of interesting detail. Now here we can go to vertex and let's not leave this kind of an ugly box here. So instead, let's just grab this target weld and let's just weld these this way, right? So it's a little more, I guess, aerodynamic is the word I'm looking for. All right, very cool. Another thing we can do is we could select this. We can go to insert edge loops, go to options. Let's leave it on multiple. Let's set this to like 4. And let's add some edge loops in here. And why not grab, hold on the shift, double click. Let's just grab all of these to extrude and let's just push this in. So very quickly we can add more and more interesting detail, right? Kind of maintaining our low poly, but at the same time, keep creating something maybe unique. So I think that's pretty cool. And I think I'm ready to activate the turn the body back on and see how this is all fits together. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to select my head and I'm going to combine it into one and clear my history. And just for the sake of us knowing what's going on, we can even name it head in the outliner. Let's click on group 1, press H and unhide everything. Let's grab our head and just move it into position. And at this point, we just have to figure out what size we like. So for the body to feel kind of strong and right, I do want to make sure the head is not too large. So it's total matter of preference, but decide what makes sense to you and what you like. And I think I do want my head to be kind of inset a little bit inside this area here. So maybe it's somewhat protected almost, right? Especially if he's like a soldier or a military guy. I think that is cool. I'm looking at his feet. I'm feeling like the feet are too large. Let's go ahead and center this. And I'm not happy with these feet being so ginormous. I think it needs to be more this size. So that's another thing you will see me do a lot. I'll just keep going back and forth and just see how it feels, right? Kind of figuring out what makes sense scale-wise. So I like this better, I think. The other one just felt a little bit overwhelming. Let's go ahead and select this and mirror it to the other side. And that makes a little more sense, I think. Very cool. Now, one of the questions that might come up is how is this head connected to the base? We could deal with that. So one of the things we can do, we can decide if we want the head, you know, looking up a little bit or looking down. I think I like it just like this. All we need to do is just, let's decide what happens inside there, right? So I'm going to isolate this. And for the sake of simplicity, because no one's going to really look in there, let's press extrude and let's just kind of close this in. And we can do another extrude and let's just pull this up and maybe scale this in. And I can switch to global scale and maybe do something like that. Just very simple, right? Because no one's going to really see inside there. But let's see if this makes sense. If we wanted to bend this, right, we definitely want to maybe add some edge loops in there. And one of the things I'm not happy with is this here. So I'm going to select this point here, press W, and just move this back a little bit so it's a little more round. Very nice. Let's go into insert edge loops. I'm going to leave it on 4 and see what that looks like. That's a little bit too much. Let's do 3. I think that's a little bit better. If we wanted to have a little more detail here, let's just maybe do that. Just push this in. Okay. And I'm going to unhide my character's head and see if that makes sense. I think it does. All right. Another thing we can do is maybe we can take this edge here Let's press R. Let's just scale this out a little more. All right, so we have a little more room for the head to maybe spin around. I think maybe it would be also cool if we took this here. I'm gonna press W and move this up. I think that's cool, and that makes sense to me too. If he's getting attacked or shot from the back, maybe we want to protect the back of his head a little more, right? So that's nice, and we can add more detail here as well. Next, let's just finish the legs. All right, so to create the leg, I am going to let's create kind of a centerpiece, which is the knee, and then we'll just simply connect the knee to the hip and the foot, right? I keep looking at this and I feel like I want to change one more thing. I'm going to select the front toe here. I'm going to switch to transform, turn soft select on. I'm going to put it to 10, and I'm going to put this on volume. Now the volume, the difference between volume and surface is that if you switch it to surface, it's going to just affect the middle piece. But if you do the volume, it's going to be more of a radius thing. So it's going to grab meshes that are right next to it. So I do want to have it on volume, and I want to pull this up just a little more so it feels a little more stretched out in the center. I think that actually is a little bit better. And if I wanted to, I can take these here and move them back. And then take this here again and move this even more. I think that is a better shape for like a foot for a robot. I'm really trying to get away from that bird looking foot, and I think this does it. That kind of feels a little bit better to me. All right, so now to do the knees, right, let's do something simple. Let's just grab a box, make a box, and let's go ahead and bevel it. And what I could do is I'm going to grab my scale, I'll just scale this in, and essentially just turn this into more of a knee, right? So I'm going to right click, go to face, let's grab this piece here. I can switch this down to something like 4, and let's just scale this out a little more. And 4 is not working. I'm going to do 7. Yeah, this is what I was looking for. So something like that for the knee, I think is great. And what we could do is let's go ahead and put this into position from the front first. So the knee is going to be somewhere around here, right? I think that is what makes the most sense. I can press R, I can just decide how I would like the shape to feel and look. Something like that is great. Let's go into the side view and see if it makes sense from here. Maybe we can do, maybe this will be like the front plate of the knee, and maybe the leg is going to be bent a little bit, so it's going to go more like that, right? I think that's great. And if we wanted to, we could just scale this down just a little bit and see what that feels like from here. Let's move it back into position, and let's just figure out if we even like this. I think we like it. I think it's great. One thing I would like to do actually is I would like to move this down just a little bit. And I think it would also be interesting if this piece here, I'm going to press B on my keyboard to turn off select. This piece was a little more extruded, so it's a little stronger. All right. We can also select all of these faces here, press Ctrl E, and just maybe make this a little thicker as well. So it's almost like a pad, right? Now this is going to be the leg piece, so let's press W and let's just pull this back. And now what we have is we have this bottom piece here and this piece up here that we can use some kind of a tube, right, that we can just connect right in there. All right, and if we wanted to, we could select both of them, press Ctrl E, click on this box, let's just do something like that, do Ctrl E again, let's just pull this in, so then we know the leg piece is gonna come from inside there, right? I think that totally works. Let's check it out. All right, so next, I'm just gonna make a connection from here. So I'm gonna press B on my keyboard. Let me grab this edge here. Grab my move. I'm gonna hold down the shift key, which is yet another way to extrude, and just pull this up. And press R, just scale this in a little more. Press W, and let me just put this right into place and maybe move it over. So something like that would be essentially the calf or the bottom part of his leg. Now I'm trying to figure out if I need to add more edges here. I think it's important that we break it up just a little more, right? Let's go ahead and go to insert edge loop, and let's do something like 3, and let's just add 3 edge loops just in case we need this for deformation during animations. I think that works. Okay, so that's pretty easy. Let's figure out what we want to do here. Let's do the same thing here as well. I'm going to grab this piece here. I'm going to hold on, I'm going to press W or click on transform. And then what we should do is let's hold on the shift key and just pull this piece up. Right, so essentially just extruding the out of the knee, the piece that would go into the hip. All right, I could press R and I can scale this in a little more, and press W and just kind of take this piece and just shove it right into the hip. And then we'll make a nice custom kind of shape for this. And we can make sure that it's aligned and centered from every direction, right? Essentially you want to find kind of like the center spot here. That makes sense. All right, now same as before, let's go ahead and insert some edges here. So I'm going to go back to my edges. I'm going to leave it on 3 and just insert 3 edges here as well, just like we did with the other one. And honestly, I'm not really happy with their flow. For deformation, that doesn't make any sense. So let's jump into the front view, and instead let's use our knife tool. So what I need to do is I want to have my edges run this way. So I'm going to do 1, 2, and 3. That would make a lot more sense. All right, go back into perspective view and check it out. To me, it looks pretty good. I'm kind of liking this. I'm going to go with this. So now I just can select this leg and simply mirror it to the other side. So now I have 2 of them. Okay. If you feel like he's bending down too much, it feels like he's almost squatting down, we could fix that pretty easy, right? So all we need to do, maybe let's delete this leg again. And it feels like he's kind of squatting down, right? How can we fix this or tweak it to feel it a little less squatty? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this down like that. All right. And I'm going to move this in so it's a little more like that. Okay. I'm going to isolate this for 1 second. Come up here, grab this face here, press B on my keyboard. Let's dial this up. I'm going to make sure, let's see. I don't want to include the knee pad. I just want to include this whole thing here, right? Let's jump out of isolate. And let's just kind of put this into a better position. And I know it's messing everything up here, but we can clean this up in a minute. Let's just see if this feels better as far as like the pose, right? The standing. It also feels to me like the leg, for this balance to work, right? This leg needs to be more like here. I think that's important. All right, let's go back in here and let's just keep tweaking it. I'm gonna move it back into position, and I know I'm breaking it, but I'm gonna fix this in a second. So I think something like that feels a little better to me. So I'm gonna go back in here. How do I fix this? All this stuff. Well, to fix it, all I need to do is just simply hold on Control and press Delete. Remember, we actually use the knife tool. So let's do that. Do 1, 2, 3. And let's do 1, 2, and 3. And that's a clever way to quickly clean that up. And as you can see now, it feels a little better as far as the initial default pose goes, right? So if we take this and put it on the other side, we can see that now doesn't feel like he's squatting down, and it feels like the balance of the character is a little better, right? The weight. So it feels a little more realistic and a little more stable. I could select everything, press Ctrl G, and simply move it up that way. If I jump out of the perspective view, I can make sure he's on the floor. And again, when you do Ctrl G, you can see that it's kicking you out from all the old groups that are not being used, which is fantastic. Great way to clean stuff up. I'm just gonna press delete, and there you go. So now if we open this up, we have all the meshes for the robot, which will probably end up combining most of these when we decide to rig our character. But all right, so for the hand, let's do the same thing as we did with the head. So we'll hide everything and just build a hand. Before we do, I keep spinning this guy, and I'm just kind of taking a closer look. One thing I would like to do is I'm going to take the back. I'm going to set it to volume 5, and I would like to push this back. I would like this to be curvy, just like the front. I think it feels more like a foot, and also gives him more balance on the back because he's kind of top heavy, and we're gonna give him big weapons as well. So I think he needs big feet to kind of balance out. So pulling that back makes sense to me. Another thing that I would like to do is I'm gonna take these pieces here. I'm gonna press B on my keyboard, and what I could do is I would like to pull this up, make it a little more, a little stronger. Now, if I'm pulling this up, you can see that it feels like it's needs to be pulled in as well. So let's go ahead and press R, and let's just scale this in just a little bit, just a little, right? So it feels like this is more angled. And if you wanted to, you can even grab these pieces here, press W, and just maybe move this up a little, so it's a little more curved, right? Total artistic preference, but I think that totally works. And we can even do the same thing for the bottom, right? We can grab these here and just pull them down just a little bit, so make them a little more strong as well, and maybe even pull them back a little, so you have something like that. So there's like a little curve hugging his leg, right? Protecting his legs. So just those couple little touches, I think make a big difference, right? So now his legs are more protected, and this feels a little stronger. So just spin around and see what changes you like to make, but obviously we're just having fun, right? So and keep in mind, this character here is not, you know, copyrighted or anything like that. So it's totally up to you, whatever you do with them. So once you build them, it's yours. You know what I mean? Like, do whatever you want with the design and the character. So I wanted to kind of point that out, obviously. And let's see, so before we do the arms, I feel like maybe we can do just a couple more things on the back. This feels a little plain. We can of course do stuff in Substance Painter, but it does still feel like there should be something here. All right, let's do R, and maybe let's do something like that. Press W, move this up a little. I'm gonna do Control E, and I'm just gonna kind of pull this back. I feel like that would be a cool little detail. And maybe there's like a panel here. Let's grab all of these, do Control E, just pull this back a little, and also pull this in, right? Let's see, so I think that's cool, right? Just a little detail adds a lot. And if you wanted to, if you feel like some of this is just way too boxy, you can always grab like the corners, and you can experiment by trying to bevel them. Now when you bevel it, it's creating a much more interesting shape, but it's also doing something strange with the things around it. So you just have to do a little cleanup, right? If you do something like that. So for example, let's say I like this, and let's say I'm gonna go with it. If I do want to keep it, I definitely want to clean this up. So I would want to probably merge these together and then take this one and merge it in as well, right? Or take this one and actually merge it down here. That's probably what I would do. So let's do the same thing here as well. I'm just going to merge this way and then merge it down, right? And then what I would do is I'll probably grab the cut tool and just make a cut here. And do a cut as well here. Just kind of clean up the geo. If you do start beveling things in places, let's do some cleanup here as well. I'm gonna grab this and maybe merge it into here. And you know what? Let's make sure our symmetry is on, so we're doing it on both sides. So I'm gonna merge this in here, and I want to maintain this nice clean cut. So I don't want to mess with this area here, but I do need to clean this up, right? So maybe let's pull this in here, and we can pull this one maybe to here. I think that works. And now let's grab our cut tool and we can just make a cut from here to here. Just press enter, and that kind of cleans that up. I think that totally works, right? You have to make sure and see if anything else needs to be subdivided. I think this does too. Again, if you wanted to see if you missed anything, just select it, go to mesh, clean up, make sure select is on, faces more than 4 sides are on, press apply, and we can see what else we missed, right? So we missed these elements up here are also need to be fixed as well. So let's do that really quick while we are here. So I'm going to press enter, and let's do the same thing here. All right, let me look again, clean up. So everything here looks nice. Just one more issue back here. Again, just grab my cut tool. Let's make a cut from here to here. All right, let's check it one more time, do a cleanup. There we go, so that's all fixed. And yeah, so I think that looks a lot more interesting back here, and it totally works. All right, I'm gonna do Control S, and let's go ahead and jump into doing our hands, right? So to do the hands, again, I'm gonna make sure that this guy, I'm gonna press H to hide it, and let's just do something really simple. I don't want to spend too much time on the hands because hands could get complex really quick. Let's just do a palm, right? So this is going to be our palm, and let's go ahead and maybe add a bevel, right? So we have our bevel, and let's see. So for the fingers, I'm going to do Control D, and all I need to do, I think I'm going to have 3 fingers and a thumb, right? So I think that's more than enough. So let's go ahead and move this out here, and that's going to be one of our fingers. We can maintain the thickness, just do something like that. So it's kind of the same thickness as the palm. And I'm going to need 3 of these, right? I'm going to do Shift D and move it over, and then do Shift D again to have 3 of them, right? Let's go ahead and jump into the top view and just make sure we're kind of aligned with the grid here, right? So I'm going to select these 3 fingers, press W. I just want to make sure they're, you know, in the center of at least this grid here. I'm going to press R, and I want to make sure my hand is somewhat wide as these 3 fingers, right? And let's do this. Let's select this, press Control D, and move this in, then press R. and just scale this in. So these are going to be our, think of this as like the knuckles, right? So you got your knuckles, and then you have your hands here, and then we need some kind of a connection. And usually, you know, the fingers bend in 3 different places, right? So maybe what we could do is, so let's do this. Let's select all of these. I'm gonna go to component mode, switch to vert. So select all of these here. I'm gonna jump out of symmetry. I just want these pieces here. Press W. I'm just gonna move them in just a little bit. That's gonna be kind of the end of my fingers, but I do need the middle pieces as well, right? So for the middle, I think they should be shorter. So I'm gonna press Ctrl D and just move them into position. That totally works. And let's go ahead and take one of these, press Ctrl D, move it right in between, press R, and let's just scale this in and scale it this way, right? And then press W, put it into position, and let's make 2 of them. Ctrl D, put this into position, select both of these, Ctrl D, and I'm going to do Ctrl D one more time, and that is going to be essentially my 3 fingers. Now I need a thumb, so I'm going to grab this whole thing, and if I wanted to, I could even combine this into one for 1 second. Do Ctrl D, grab my rotation, and just rotate it. Press W, and this is going to be the thumb, right? So the thumb should probably honestly be on the other side. So let's move it this way. Okay, so nice and simple. Let's jump into the perspective view and take a look at our robot hand, right? We can hold down D and then hold down V, and then we can grab this pivot and we can snap it to the bottom point right there. We can press E and we can just kind of rotate this in a little bit so it's a little more feeling like a thumb. Okay, that totally works. Another thing we can do is maybe we can make this a little thicker. I'm gonna press R and just thicken this up a little. All right, it's a little stronger. I'm gonna grab this face here, press W, and I am in object mode, so I'm just gonna kind of pull this in, press E, and rotate this in. So there's some kind of a connection with the thumb. Now if you press X-ray, you can see that that is not going to be seen, so you could press delete and just delete that whole poly, right? We don't really need it. Very nice. If you wanted to add some additional detail to your hand, you could do that. You could select it, press extrude. Let's maybe do something like that. And let's do Ctrl E one more time, pull this up. Just so it's a little thicker and a little more interesting, right? So you could do that. If you wanted to add some details here, we could do that. So maybe let's select the entire thing now, combine it, clear our history, and now we can play, right? Now we can just select some of these faces here, maybe this guy. Let's do Control extract. We don't really want to do nails or anything, but we could do just give them a little thickness by doing maybe extruding this up a little. So I guess they are going to be almost like nails. Alright, what else can we do? We can take, maybe if you didn't want these to be perfect, you could do, you just move them out a little. Just to make it a little more interesting. Just total artistic preference, right? You can also take this one, move this way, press R, maybe scale it in. So you can. I think that totally works. All right, let's go ahead and bring our guy back by just pressing H and take this hand, and we just have to figure out the position and the scale of the arm, right? So, and I'm gonna put him into position. This way it aligns a little bit better with the arms. So something like that, press R. And I want to make sure he has kind of large, big hands, and the hands need to come down to kind of the bottom of the knee. I think that feels like a good place for the hand. Let's go ahead and check it from every direction. Now you see the green because I don't have the any materials assigned, so I can fix that by selecting this, right-clicking, and just doing existing Lambert 1, and that's going to make sure that that green kind of goes away. If you wanted to, you can also go to material attributes and just change this down so it's not so bright, right? Just while you're modeling, right, as a preference. You can even switch it to, let's do like a foam. You could do that. And the cool thing about that is that it's going to allow you to do a little bit of specularity, right? So you can make it feel more metallic. So you could do that. That's totally up to you as a preference. All right, and let me jump out of this mode. Now this mode is cool. Use default material, because if you are modeling and you don't want to deal with materials, a lot of times I'll turn this on, and that's just going to give me kind of a Maya preview before I start assigning materials and textures. Just a cool little trick. But here's our guy with the foam material. You can see it has a little bit of a specularity, which is cool, right? All right, so there is our arm. I kind of like it. I think it's nice and huge. We could scale it down a little bit. Maybe it's a little too big. Let's grab our scale and let's just scale this in. So it's a little more compact, right? Not so long. And let's make sure that we like its position, which we do, right? Make sure it's aligned with the shoulder, because it's going to be connecting to this piece here. So for that reason, we can do that. We can even, we could mirror it to the other side, but we should probably build the arm first before we do that. But we can just start looking and seeing what that feels like. I think that looks great. If you felt like this piece here should be subdivided more, right? That's pretty easy to do. Just go to Mesh Tools, insert edge loops, and we could just insert some edge loops here, maybe, in case we want to bend this at any moment during animation. So that's important. And obviously we could do it on both by just mirroring it, but let's go ahead and just finish the arm, right? And the arm should be, in my opinion, similar to the leg, right? We don't want to get too fancy, but we could create some kind of a knee, or an elbow pad, and just a connector between these two, right? So let's maybe give them a connection piece where this can go. So I'm going to do extrude, do something like this, and I can pull this in. I'm going to do Control E, do that. All right, and for the arm, I'm just gonna do something simple. Do Control E and just pull this up. All right. And if you wanted to make this a little thicker as it comes out, we could do that. And let's go back into our front view. And let's just simply press W. And let's just move this into position of where the arm is going to go in. So something like that. And again, if you wanted to press X-ray, right? We know that this is not going to be seen by anyone, so we can just press delete. Very cool. Jump out of X-ray. So now there's going to be, let's decide on the length of our arm. I think something along these lines makes sense. I wouldn't probably want it to be longer, but if you wanted to, you can just play around and see what makes sense. Maybe just make it just a little bit longer. Come back here, just put this back in. All right. Now, before we build the elbow, obviously we need to insert edge loops for this. So let's go ahead and do that. Insert edge loops. I'm going to give myself maybe 6. All right. That's pretty good. If you wanted to start, maybe bend this a little to make it feel more like the elbow, we could do that. We can select this back edge here and just move this back a little bit. Just kind of start, mess this up, make it feel a little more, I guess, organic. Totally up to you. If you wanted to make a shoulder pad, let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to select both of these here. Let's do an extrude. I'm just going to simply pull this out, and I'm going to select, I would like to select, you know what, I'm actually going to do one more. I'm going to select this, do Control E, pull this out one more time. So now I have a little bit of a thickness there. Now I can go to faces, select one, hold on Shift, double click, go all the way around, do Control E, and then pull this out. All right, do something like that. That's a cool little effect. We can grab these guys here, press W. And let's go ahead and move this back. All right. We can also select this all the way around, do Control E. Let's extrude this as well. I'm going to select this edge, press W, and just move this in. And then press R, and I can just scale this out. So I kind of have like almost like a little protection for the back of the elbow, right? If we wanted to add any kind of detail to these, we could do that. We could select these two edges, do a little bevel, maybe change the fraction, and let's go ahead and select this loop and do Control E, and just kind of pull this in like that, just giving us a little more detail. We could do the same thing here as well. Maybe let's select these guys, do Control E, do something like that, and we can pull this up, right? And honestly, that would actually be cool if it was on both sides. I kind of like that, so I'm going to do that on both sides. Just adds a little interesting detail. All right, you can take a look. Very cool. Now we can just decide if you want to do more. If you're happy with it, then maybe there's another connection piece that could go in here. Let me move this down a little more, and let's take this piece here. Let's go all the way around, do Control E. Let's just extrude this out so there's a little more of a connector piece. We can isolate this to make sure and see what's going on there. I think that's good. We can even take these pieces here and do a bevel. Right, we could do that. Let's jump out, take a look. I can select this and clone it over to the other side just for 1 second so I can see what this is looking like. This right here feels a little plain to me, so let's select both of them, go to component, let's grab all of these, 4 of these on each side, and let's do this. Let's do Control E, and let's say keep faces off, right? And then what we can do is we can click on this box and scale this in and scale this in. All right, and then we can do Control E one more time and just push this in. I think that's going to be a nice little detail to the palm of his hands. If he grabs something, there's a little bit of a texture there, right? And we could have done that in Substance Painter as a normal map as well, but I think we're really good with faces. Right now it's at still under 5,000 for this entire character, about 8,800 tries. So I think we can afford a little detail still here and there. The only other thing, as I'm looking, I would like to maybe add something to the shoulders as well. Let's go ahead and select this whole loop here, and let's do an extrude, and let's go ahead and push this in just a little bit. So it's nice because it breaks up some of this large surface, right? And if you wanted to, you can even create kind of a cool shoulder design or shoulder pad design. For example, if I click on, if I make this live, I can do something like, we could put a box here. Holding down the Shift key, I can, because I have a interactive creation on, I can put a box right there. And then I can do Mesh Smooth and do something like that. And now what I could do is I can take these faces here, do Control E, and just pull them out. So you have like a little design on the shoulder there. What we could do next is let's select these edges here. Let's do a bevel. And let's select this entire loop. Control E. Let's pull this in. Very quickly it can create fun detail. I'm going to jump out of live surface, select this, isolate it, and let's just not have, we don't need any of these faces here. I'll press delete, go to object. Alright, and now we have something like this. We can press W, we can move it into position, and if you wanted to, let's have one on this side as well. I'm going to press Control D, and let me just put one here. Let's just rotate it. I can press F. Let's just lower it. Alright, I can press E to make sure that it's looking nice. I think something like that totally works. Let's go ahead and take a look. Alright, now I can combine them and I can flip them over to the other side. Let's go ahead and select everything and make sure we have the same material assigned to all of it. And now maybe these little guys need to be, let's see, we have this set to 50 still. I'm going to say apply and see if that makes sense. I think it does. Now, if you want to check any of your edges, we can turn off the edges and just see if everything looks good and makes sense, right? Press F. All right, I think it does. I don't see any issues, but if you see any kind of strange issues with your edges, make sure you take the time to smooth them or harden the edges. It needs to look good in Maya before you export this out into a game engine or something like that. All right, so Again, if you want to clean this up, let's select the whole thing, press Ctrl G, and let's call this robot, and now we can just delete all this other nonsense that we don't longer need. We have all the meshes kind of separate. So the next step would be to combine the meshes together and assign different materials to different parts. If you want some of it to be rubber or metal, you can assign different materials. You know, doing UVs, bringing it into Substance Painter, doing textures, and then setting up this model for rigging. And then again, I would love to add like a big weapon, but honestly, this video is just getting way too long. It's going to be like a 4-hour video, which is crazy. I think I'm going to stop here, and maybe this could be like part 1. If anyone is interested, let me know in the comments. I can spend time showing how to create UVs for this guy, and then maybe run it through Substance Painter for some quick texturing, and then also, you know, it would be fun to set up a rig and a weapon for this guy. So it's probably another 2 hours. But anyways, let me know if you guys are enjoying these kind of training videos, if you're learning and would like to see more. And thanks again for joining me, and hopefully I'll see you in our next video.